Liberty Works Radio Network. Now live from coast to coast and around the globe. More real talk, the kind you want, on Liberty Works Radio Network.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Feathering the Eagle's Nest on Liberty Works Radio Network with your host, Michelle Jefferson. Folks, I'd like to say thank you for listening this afternoon. This is a radio station that you can't just turn a button on your radio in your car or in your office. You actually have to click on the link and listen, and that is something that is greatly appreciated. The reason why I call this Feathering the Eagle's Nest is because I believe that Americans should be put on the endangered species list, just like we did with the American eagle. I know it sounds a little corny, I know it sounds a little cliche, but if you think about it, standing up for American principles is now considered radical and extreme. Flying the American flag is offensive, and folks are asked to take down the American flag. When did that become American? I believe that the multiculturalism that we have been experiencing with the porous borders, we've had a flow of immigrants, both legal and illegal, and it's the illegal immigrants that come in and try to recreate the hell that they left behind. And in the matter of being politically correct and being tolerant, we're trying to let them go ahead and spread their wings a little bit. And we have to be tolerant of them, but they're not tolerant of us. And in the process, America has been put down further and further on the food chain. Our American ideals, our American ways, everything that we used to hold near and dear to our heart is now out and up for open season. And that's something that I'm not happy about. There's a call-in number, 410-848-9191. I like to have conversations. I don't like to talk all by myself. Although this is my first day, I don't have any guests lined up. We do have some guests lined up for the next couple of weeks, but this evening I'd like to hear from you on how you would like to see this particular hour go every Wednesday. One of the other things that I would like to do is talk about the American man. I have a husband, I have a son, I have a grandson, and I love them dearly. I love the fact that my husband is a strong man. I know that whenever there's danger, he's going to be able to help protect me. And with Pajama Boys, we can't have that protection. And part of Americans being on the endangered species list, they started with the American man. And unfortunately, many of the men, instead of fighting the system, they have taken a step back. And that messes with a guy's psyche after a while, whenever they can't be the men that they want to be because it's no longer acceptable in certain societal circles. And that's unfair. We have boys who are playing in playgrounds at school, chewing their food when it looks like a gun and being suspended. Little boys will come up and give their teachers a hug in elementary school, and they have to go through sensitivity training. When does it end? That's my question. When does it end? Okay, the number again here is 410-848-9191. You are listening to Liberty Works Radio Network, and your host is Michelle Jefferson. One of the other issues that I would like to speak about of what we can do to change the direction that I believe we are headed. What we did with the American eagle, like I said, we put it on the endangered species list. Well, I'd like to put our kids on the endangered species list. And the first thing that we're going to have to do is to protect them from Common Core. And for those of you who don't know what Common Core is, It is supposedly the national standards, but they're not national standards. Standards that have been handed down from on high with the gift of a boatload of money for new standards to be taught to our children. And if you haven't heard of Common Core yet, you must be living under a rock or in a cave, because we have many states who initially, like so many of the other states, took the money that was offered for Common Core, sight unseen. And that's the hitch there. It happened right after the financial crisis, where every state was scrambling to try to find extra money for everything that they needed. And here comes the federal government saying, hey, we have this bag of money, and we're going to give it to you. But you have to accept these new education standards, sight unseen. And most of these folks said, oh, yeah, I'll take the money. Give me the money. Give me the money. And especially Maryland's governor, O'Malley, he hasn't found a federal handout that he wants to turn away from. He'll take everything and anything the federal government wants to give, along with the strings that are attached to this. Now, they want you to believe that this was voluntary. They want you to believe that this is the next best thing since sliced bread. It's going to make our kids so much smarter, so much stronger, and they're going to be college ready. Well, let's take some of those perceptions or those myths with Common Core. What Common Core ends up by doing is eliminating the possibility of individual exceptionalism. The slower learner in the class is going to be who dictates the pace that class is taught. We used to have it to where the slower learners were in one group, your medium learners in the next, and of course your higher learners, your faster learners in another. And this whole thing of leveling the playing field so nobody's feelings get hurt and everybody gets to do the same thing at the same time for all the same reasons makes me sick to my stomach. Because not everybody is equal. Everybody is put on this earth with a completely different set of skills. And if you believe like I do, God already has our path picked out. So he's given all of us our skills to succeed in life. And some of us aren't going to have all of the same skills. So how can someone who learns slower compete with someone who is faster? It can't. But at the same time, you can't expect someone who learns faster to learn slower. And that's exactly what's happening with Common Core. Now, we have no local control. Only 30% of the curricula can be changed or added. And the reason why you can't change or add anything more than that is because it has been copyrighted. It removes our incentive, or the incentive for the kids to achieve. I'm not sure if you guys have heard the stories about some of these kids coming home to their parents and talking about committing suicide because they are that frustrated with the Common Core math. I've sat at different town hall meetings and at school board meetings, and I've listened to parents and students talk and cry about Common Core, especially the math, and how difficult it is for them to figure this out. When the parents are told, don't help with the homework, you're not allowed to help with the homework, that takes the parent out of the equation. The Supreme Court has upheld that the parents have the right to decide how their child is educated, period. And it takes us to the stigma that goes to homeschoolers. we have a lot of folks who've decided, the heck with this. We can't afford to put our kids into a private school, so we're going to bring them out of the public school and we are going to homeschool them. More and more parents are doing this. Why? Because they don't want their kids to be indoctrinated. They want them to be educated. The myth that this is going to make them college ready is just that, a myth. They'll be lucky to be able to get into community college at this rate. Right now, in Carroll County alone, 70% of the kids that graduate from Carroll County schools that attend Carroll Community College need remedial math. 70%. That's unacceptable. We call that counterfeit diplomas. If you as a parent and we as taxpayers, over half of our money that is collected in taxes goes, in our county budget, goes to education. So we are paying for these kids to have an education. Why would these kids have to then pay for remedial math when they already have a diploma? They should not need remedial anything when they graduate from high school, period. So what we're effectively doing is giving our kids a counterfeit diploma, telling them that, hey, you did this, you graduated, hip, hip, hooray, but then when they get in this big, bad world, they can't function. They don't have what they need. And that's unfair. Common Core isn't going to make it any easier. In fact, it's going to make it tougher. There are ways that we can get around Common Core. And when we come back after the break, we're going to talk about a few of those things coming up. There are 3 gentlemen running for school board in Carroll County. Their names are George Harmoning, Bud Nason, and Jim Roenick. There are a total of 6 candidates running for the Board of Ed. These 3 gentlemen are the only candidates who have promised to eliminate Common Core from Carroll County, period. They are following what many other states have done, even though these states realize, okay, we took the money, oh yeah, we said we would do this, and then we find out that this is not for them. And they're pulling out of Common Core. And they are making that decision that the money is not that important, that their kids, the future of their state, the future of their country, are more important than however many bags of money the federal government can throw their way. Again, you are listening to Feathering the Eagle's Nest on Liberty Works Radio Network. And I'm getting a high sign. I apologize. I'm coming off 30 seconds too soon, and I do apologize for that, guys. Like I said, this is my first time here. I am a little nervous, and if you hear that in my voice, I do apologize. And by next week, I think I'll be old hat at this. In the meantime, on the break, I'd like you guys to bring up a website, www.fedupwithcommoncore.com. When you have the opportunity, bring that up, start looking at it. There is a plethora of information there. We'll be back shortly. Again, you're listening to Feathering the Eagle's Nest on Liberty Works Radio Network with Michelle Jefferson.
Now live from coast to coast and around the globe, more real talk, the kind you want, on Liberty Works Radio Network.
Welcome back. You're listening to Feathering the Eagle's Nest on Liberty Works Radio Network with your host, Michelle Jefferson. My phone's not working? Okay, I apologize. We seem to be having some technical difficulties here, folks. And I do see that we have some phone lines lit up, and Deborah is frantically going back and forth here trying to keep me straight. And we have our first caller online, and that is, it's George Harmoning. Hey, George.
Yes, how are you, Michelle?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Good, thank you.
And George Harmoning is one of the gentlemen that I spoke about just a few minutes ago, running for Board of Ed here in Carroll County. George, why don't you explain to the folks what it is about Common Core that you don't like and the things that you would like to do as a Board of Ed member once you're elected?
Well, one of the things I don't like about Common Core is the fact that it was developed by some D.C.-based nonprofit organizations like Achieve or the National Governors Association and also the Council for Chief School Officers. All three of those were actually the companies that put Common Core together. It was funded mainly, all three of those companies were funded by Bill Gates. So Bill Gates is actually the one to make billions off of our children. This is not was not locally. We did not have local input from parents, teachers, or the school boards, and all the students across the county are taught the same material at the same time. It's a one size fits all program.
And that's what I've heard
about it, too. It assumes all students naturally learn at the same pace and in the same way. Teachers have little time to focus on individual needs, which what our students really benefit from. The other thing is it has doesn't take into account our special needs students, which we need to make sure our curriculum does take them into account. And it was never pilot tested, never field tested by any school or school district, and it's really using our children as guinea pigs.
Well, nobody wants their kids to be used as a guinea pig. Well, let me ask you this, George. What is it that you and Bud and Jim would like to do once you guys are elected for our school board up here?
Well, what we would like to do is back our county out of Common Core. It's unconstitutional, so we have a means of doing that. We'd like to present opt-out forms for our parents to get out of the stressful testing that is involved with Common Core, such as the Clark's test, and slowly get our educational program back to the quality education that it used to be.
So that sounds great, and I for one would like to have my grandson taking those classes and being taught in that way, not through Common Core. That's wonderful. George, is there anything else that you would like to share about Common Core, or anything that you can tell some of the parents who are finding some resistance? What is it that they can do to stand up? What do you think they can do to stand up to their principal and to their teachers?
Well, one thing they can do, if they go to a website, fedupwithcommoncore.com, there are some letters on there that they can use as sample letters and address their principals or their teachers with this type of letter. They can use these letters for their personal. Of course, they'll change some of the names. You have to change to the teacher's name or the principal name, but it's a guide for the parents to use to start backing their child out of Common Core. The other thing we got to be careful about with Common Core is the AP history course, which is starting to be implemented in this county. Totally is changing or eliminating history factual points. One is very little about George Washington is going to be mentioned in the Common Core educational process. And our founding fathers will virtually be eliminated in the AP history course. So we need to really monitor what's being taught and watch what's coming through our classrooms.
We definitely do. And some of the times I hear some of the educators, not the teachers, but some of those in the administration say, well, the parents don't really care about what's going on with their kids' education, and every time that we have meet the teacher night or whatever, nobody even shows up. Do you find that to be true, George?
Well, if you're talking about like the Board of Education meetings, is that what you're referring to?
That, and they feel that parents don't always respond the way that they feel that they should respond.
Well, I think that's probably to a certain extent may be true, but I think that's because they're just not getting the information from the public school system. They're the last ones to hear about what's going on, and this is what we need to change when we're elected on the school board. We need transparency. We need the parents' input, and we do not want to make decisions without the parents' input. That's very, very important to me, and I hope that's very important to the parents. Now, as far as the Board of Education meetings, we need to change those meetings to a time when the parents can get there. Instead of starting at 4 o'clock when everyone's working, they need to start at 7 o'clock after dinner and have more parents can attend those meetings.
Well, you're right about that. I don't work at a different place. I work out of my house, and I still have a difficult time trying to get to some of those meetings at that time of day. And that is difficult for parents to be able to get through. But they say, hey, you can watch online, and you can do it that way. But it sort of takes that personal touch out of it. I don't think everything needs to be done on the technology side of things.
Right. No, it absolutely does take that personal touch, and it's something that we really need to stress, is we need more parent involvement. Common Core tries to take parent involvement away from the student. We need to put the parent involvement back into the school system and not take it away like they're trying to do right now with the Common Core curriculum.
All right, and that sounds like a winner. Well, I've been told that I have another caller on the line, George, and I'd like to try to get as many folks in here today as we can. And next week we're going to have you and all three of you here talking about Common Core and exactly what you're going to do, how you're going to do this. And I really appreciate you calling in and giving folks a chance to get to know you right here at this time. And next week we're going to go ahead and delve into it a little deeper.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you very much for taking my call.
Have a great day, George. You take care.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And I'm told our next caller's name is Bob. Bob, how are you today?
Doing well. This whole Common Core concept is nothing more than a means of an end run around existing federal law as well as constitutional law to affect at the federal level local education, and it's little more than an indoctrination program. And I liken it to boiling a frog. If you put him in the boiling water, he's going to jump out. But if you put him in the cool water and gradually bring up the heat, you'll ultimately kill the frog, but he won't jump out of the pot.
No, he won't.
And that's what we're doing here. This is nothing new. Hitler did it. It was called the Youth Communist League. The Hitler Youth, and then Stalin and the boys and Lenin did it with the Youth Communists. And in order to make any of these things work, you have to get the children used to the central authority being the schools and the, as Lenin referred to them, the useful idiots. And this is where we're headed with this. And it was nothing but an end run around the law so that the federal government didn't directly run the education program through the states.
You're right. It is against federal law for the federal government to be involved in dictating curriculum. And that's the reason why they call them standards and not curriculum.
Well, yes, and more so than just that. There was specific federal law passed over and above. This is totally wrong, and every district around the country has different needs for education. If you're in Iowa and you're a agrarian-based economy, you need to know different skills than you would in New York, where it's a financial-based economy. More so than that, Common Core does nothing to teach critical thinking. All they're doing is teaching memory stuff so that someone can pass a test. They're teaching a test, not a skill.
No. When my son was in, I want to say second grade. Now, he's 30 now. And when he was in second grade, they brought in a teacher that was specifically for helping the kids prep for the tests. And that's when outcome-based education was first introduced. And we all know how...
Well, yes. And more importantly, the foreigners are coming over here, and they know their mathematics. That's why they're taking all the good jobs from ours. 71% in Carroll County, Maryland, at the community college level, need a remedial math, reading, or English. And these are people who have a diploma from the state of Maryland,
we
Carroll
talked
County
about,
schools.
Yep,
We've
we
been
talked
robbed.
about that early. Yep. What do you call them, Bob?
Well, they're counterfeit diploma.
There you go. There you go. That's what we talked about earlier. You weren't listening a little earlier, and that's what we call them, counterfeit diplomas.
Absolutely. And this is, you have the liberals to the Democrats, and some who identify themselves as Republicans selling the snake oil. If we can't get rid of Common Core, then it's incumbent upon every one of us to get our children and grandchildren out of these education camps and educate them ourselves. It's our only salvation.
What do you say to those who tell the parents that take their kids out and homeschool them that they're selfish, that they're taking the money away from the public school system whenever they take their kid out of the public school system?
Well, if they can't do any better than this, they deserve to lose some. But quite frankly, with declining student populations, there's going to be more and more problems like this. And as the jobs dry up and as a direct result of all the abortions that have been done, you have less kids to educate.
That is true. That is absolutely true.
Well, I don't have time to worry about that school system. I have to worry about my family. I have to worry about my grandchildren and their ability to function in an ever more complicated society. And they're not going to have the skills if they're going to the public schools and using this Common Core curriculum.
Well, we've all seen how we do the math with boxes, lines, and dots. Have you figured that one out yet? How to do that?
Well, everybody that I have talked to that has seen this crazy mathematics, it cannot work. And if you doubt it, just look at how bad it is right now. Somebody needs their smartphone to calculate a 15% tip. What I had to know in 8th grade for algebra, they don't know after graduating high school.
No, they don't.
And it isn't how you feel about an algebra problem. If you don't know the quadratic formula, you can't solve a quadratic equation.
No, you can't.
But yet, these people are coming out with passing grades. My own son graduated with honors, went to work for a machine shop and didn't understand trigonometry, yet he passed it. I had to teach him trigonometry. I feel like I've been robbed.
Wow. Well, at least you didn't have to pay to teach him the trigonometry.
Well, it took my time. If I'm not working, I'm not getting paid.
True. Very true.
It still costs me.
I understand. Well, Bob, I greatly appreciate your call, and we are going to be here again next week. So if you'd like to join in on the conversation, be sure to give us a call back during the hour next week.
Well, thanks for taking my call.
You have a great day. Thanks.
You do the same.
Bye-bye. Again, we are listening to Feathering the Eagle's Nest on Liberty Works Radio Network, and your host, Michelle Jefferson. We will be back very shortly.
From coast to coast and around the globe, more real talk, the kind you want, on Liberty Works Radio Network.
You are listening to Feathering the Eagle's Nest on Liberty Works Radio Network, and your host is yours truly, Michelle Jefferson. I like talking to folks, and Jane told me that we have 2 more callers on the line, and our first caller is Tony. Tony,
Hi,
how you
Michelle.
doing?
Hi, Michelle. How are you?
I'm doing well, Guy. How about you?
I'm doing fine. I'm glad to hear you're doing the show, and I wish you good luck with it.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet.
Yes.
What can I help you with
I just wanted to talk
tonight?
about Common Core a minute.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. You know, I'm well endowed and well informed on all this.
Yes.
And I guess I'm talking to you just for the listeners' sake. We all know that Common Core was enticed by the money from the federal government. That's kind of what led us down this road, right?
Right.
And what scares the hell out of me is the people that are in the higher education, that I'm talking about the Board of Education, the teachers, they accepted this. And what scares me is that mankind can't distinguish what's right and wrong. In other words, what's yesterday's insanity has become today's sanity. So, with that said, can mankind rule himself and make a decision? Here's just one topic. We could go on and on and on.
We could.
Here we are left defending and trying to do the right thing, us few people out here. Can we get past the point, or can we bring the message back to mankind, like, you know, what is right and what is wrong? Well, you're supposed to be in a position to make these decisions, and you're put in this position to make these decisions, and you took us so far beyond what's right and wrong for our children's sake and our future education, and our children are going to be the new presidents, the new governors.
Right.
And it just scares me that we've gotten to a point that we can't distinguish what's right and wrong. And I just thought, if you thought that was a good thought process.
Well, instinctively, we all know the difference between right and wrong. Mm-hmm. Even with the littlest child, that once they start walking and talking and doing a little bit, when they know that they've done something wrong, they stop. They know. It's in us. So we know we all have that ability to discern between right and wrong. Mm-hmm. What bothers me, to what your point is I have stood in front of the school board, the superintendent, and the lawyer for the school board. And I have explained to them, along with other folks who understand the Constitution much better than what I do, explain to them that they have the constitutional right and duty to not implement Common Core, to knowing that the problems that it's going to cause, you step away from it. And it's your duty. You swore an oath when you took this job, when you were sworn in, you took an oath to do this. And they said, well, the state says we have to. And when we tell them, well, it doesn't matter what the state says. You have an obligation. You have a duty to not allow something into the education process that is going to harm our kids. And see, that's where the difference comes. We on the Liberty side of things, look at how this is going to hurt our kids. They see it as helping them. And you have to hurt a little bit before you help, which is a bunch of horse manure, but that's just me.
Yeah.
But they know the difference between right and wrong. But they also know the difference between having the money and not having the money. And I think that's really what it boils down to more. Always follow the money, Tony. We know that.
Right.
We know that.
Standing in the fire is hard, but people aren't willing to stand in the fire anymore and make a stand. And like you know, our country goes way back. Men had to stand and make a stand and do what was right, and that way, I mean, some people, it's hard to say this, but some people, especially in those positions, they may have to suffer to make the point, you know, and they took that oath to make that point, and I agree with you.
That's right. Well, there is one thing that I know: if the three guys that we are pushing for Board of Ed, George Harmoning, Bud Nason, and Jim Roenick,
right?
When they are elected, they are the majority of the board at that point. And I can tell you that the powers that be around here are working day and night trying to do everything they can to make sure that those three guys don't get elected. But when they do, they get to start ripping Common Core out by its roots, because they will have the majority of the board to do so. then you will start seeing some of the others who have been intimidated. Because you have to understand, a lot of these teachers want to stand up and say, this is bad.
Mm-hmm.
This is wrong. They want to do it, Tony, but the problem is they're being threatened. The teachers union has somebody in every school, and if you speak out, you speak up against Common Core or anything like that, man, they are on you like white on rice.
That intimidation tactic is so wrong.
Well, look at what they did in our last election here. They told the teachers, we know how you vote. Okay, they went that far to say to them, we can tell if you voted for our candidates or not. They're scared to death.
That's voter intimidation there.
That is so unfair.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, I'll tell you what, we have one more caller on the line, and I only have about 7 or 8 minutes left here. I want to give this gentleman a chance to come out with this. And, Tony, I greatly appreciate you taking the time to call. I appreciate you listening because, like I said at the beginning of the show, you just don't hit the button to turn it on. You have to find us. You have to come here and listen to us. And thank you very much for doing so. Thank you for your call. I hope to hear from you for every Wednesday after this. So don't forget, we're going to be here every Wednesday from 5 until 6. Tony, thanks, Guy. You take care. All right, Jane, do we still have Jim on the other line? All right. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Michelle, how are you?
I'm doing well. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jim Roenick. He is the second of the 3 legs of my gentlemen that are running for Board of Education here. And I'll say to you, like I said to George, lay out what you want to do, what you like and don't like about Common Core, and what you're going to do whenever you're elected to the Board of Ed.
You know, Michelle, I'm sure somewhere deep in the bowels of the Common Core there's probably some good things of very good merit, but it's very difficult to find those things.
Right.
The biggest problem is the fact that we've surrendered local control and the local standards that we should be implementing, and we put it in the hands of government bureaucrats that sit down in D.C. somewhere completely untouched. They're unaccountable to us. They're unaccountable to every teacher, school board, superintendent, school board, jurisdiction. We have no access to those people that are doing this quote-unquote forced implementation, if you will.
Right.
Common Core is a set of standards that basically is the table of contents to which the curricula are written. The curricula are written locally, but if you have the same table of contents for every school district in the country, then they cannot. Basically, they end up in the same place.
Right.
Which
and
we don't think is a good place to be going.
And that's one of the things Bob, one of our previous callers, had talked about. He said, if you live in one part of the country, you have different things that you learn than what you would over, let's say, in New York in the financial district. So one size fits all doesn't fit all.
Yeah, correct. And then the special needs children are treated the same as regular mainstream children, and that has a tremendous amount of stress and frustration in their lives as well.
Why don't you go to a little bit more
recently in the
detail?
Carroll County Times was an article, and I thought the last sentence of the article was telling that a son had been asking his parents to pull him out of school, a previously 4.0 student.
Oh, wow.
Had been asking for months for his parents to pull him out of school, and the last closing statement of this article was, "I had to save my child." We're hearing more and more of those horror stories where people are pulling their children out of public school, either in homeschooling or putting them in schools that are teaching a traditional curriculum, not that is Common Core aligned.
That's sad. That is sad that a child has to say, please do that, and a parent has to feel that they are saving their child from a place that is supposed to be safe.
Yeah, when is somebody going to speak up for the kids?
Well, the school board...
The kids are pawns in this, and they're the ones that are suffering the most, and no one is taking up their side. That's what I hope Bud, George, and I will be doing. That's the biggest thing I see us in running for this board is we want to have be a voice for the kids in our schools.
Well, the teachers have the unions, and the school board has itself, and there's nobody standing here talking for the parents or for the kids. And the kids are always the ones that are left behind.
Right, and again, it'd be nice if we could change some of the issues involved with Common Core. And a lot of this really comes to a head when you look at the new AP standards.
Yes.
Whereas if Common Core wasn't agenda-driven before, you certainly see it in the AP history course that is being bandied about now, and the fact that there's one mention of George Washington in his final address. There's no mention of Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Martin Luther King is removed. No mention of D-Day and Normandy, the lives that were lost, the sacrifices that this country has made. There's so much revisionist history, and we now see that that David Coleman and his Common Core aligned developers definitely have an agenda behind this. Our educational system is basically exploiting the rest of us as being just pawns in their system to get their agenda across.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And if we eliminate our Oh, my goodness. I do apologize. We have a fire alarm that went off here.
Okay.
And I swear I didn't do it. If you can hang on, Jim, I'd appreciate it. We'll be back next week, and hopefully with less technical difficulties. It's Michelle Jefferson with Feathering the Eagle's Nest.